Hello, my name is Mike and I am a research software engineer, and I'm also someone who knows the importance of looking after your mental health and what can happen when things go wrong. I'm applying for an SSI fellowship to continue the conversation around mental health in our community and to provide people with the resources to look after themselves and to help find the right support when they need it. I studied computer games engineering, then worked in the games industry before returning to university for my PhD. I went on to become an RA, however I was doing the job of an RSE in all but name, something I only discovered at my first RSE conference in 2017. I later became an RSE and finally felt like I had worked out what I wanted to do when I grow up. Not only do I love the job, but I love the community. I was a founding member of the Newcastle RSE team and have been actively involved in that community ever since. I've attended every RSE con since 2017, including as a presenter and committee member. I've also attended several SSI events, including the Aspiring Leaders Workshop and Collaborations Workshop, and in 2023 I was elected to the Board of Trustees for the RSE Society. I am passionate about the RSE movement, which not only inspired me but literally made my job possible. I want to use my experience as an RSE as well as my history with mental health to give something back to that community. In 2022, my colleague Dave Horsfall was awarded an SSI fellowship to conduct a survey on mental health in the research software community. The results were initially surprising, with more than half of those who responded saying that they had encountered some sort of mental health problem. But is it really a surprise? Software development is notorious for burnout, and being an RSE in academia has its own challenges. It's varied and occasionally chaotic job, and don't get me wrong, many of us thrive in that environment, but it can take its toll on the best of us if we don't look after ourselves and our colleagues, as I know only too well. I have a history of depression, anxiety and insomnia dating back to my first mental health crisis in 2011, when my life was turned upside down in the space of about 3 weeks. It took me the best part of a decade before I finally got the help I needed and began to truly recover. Then my son came into the world in April 2020, at the same time that there was a new arrival in all our lives. Looking after your first baby, who came out with a broken collarbone, as well as my wife, who had developed mastitis and anemia, in lockdown, with no support, while trying to keep multiple PIs and my boss happy, it burned me out, and led to a full-blown anxiety attack. It nearly broke me, but I survived, and once again things began to improve. So, why am I applying for an SSI fellowship? Well, being a fellow would give me two things. Firstly, it gives me a platform that I can use to engage with the RSE community, and second, the funding will allow me to attend events and enable other activities that I wouldn't be able to do without it. My aims for the fellowship would be, first, to tell my story and help keep the conversation going. I also want to help Dave analyse and publicise the results of his survey, but my main goals are to provide resources and create initiatives to promote better mental health in the community. All of which I think is important because improving the sustainability of research software goes beyond just improving the quality of our code. We need to help sustain the people writing the code too. To achieve this, firstly I plan to attend several events including CW25 and RSECon25, where I would either submit a talk or a poster, or plan workshops or unconferencing sessions relating to this work. For example, I plan to submit a lightning talk to CW25 to help inspire more ideas and discussions around mental health at the event. An example of the sort of thing I want to enable is task management for self-care. At CW24, I was part of the prize-winning team that proposed a carpentry-style course on how to use so-called productivity frameworks, not to help us do more work, but to manage our tasks effectively. This was something that colleagues, particularly those with anxiety and neurodiversity, found especially useful for maintaining their life-work balance and improving their mental health. I don't think there is a one-size-fits-all solution, no single magic bullet that can help improve mental health across the community, but smaller efforts like this, which help subsets of the community with specific issues, can make a big difference. Another thing that I would consider doing is going through the training to be a mental health first aider. Then I could be on call to support mental health at various events over the next few years, and it might also give me knowledge and experience that would be useful in some of my other plans. I would also like to organise sessions aimed at boosting the mental health of the attendees at these events, like mindfulness and exercise classes, and obviously these things cost money. The funding would also enable me to print stickers, posters and leaflets to promote the work that I'm doing, as well as using tools like Mentimeter to make my presentations more engaging. Next, I want to create a website that pulls together a range of different mental health resources. This would include some engaging and interactive visualizations of Dave's survey results, accompanied by some basic definitions of common mental health issues and links to more information about them. Of Of course, it would also need to include links to emergency and non-emergency services for people who need support. I would also like to compile some tips for RSEs on looking after their own mental health, as well as helping managers look after their teams. The site would also include a series of blog posts where we can share stories and discuss a range of topics aimed at keeping the conversation going, sharing tips and advice, reducing the stigma, and helping people feel seen. Finally, I'd like to continue to collaborate with Dave to process and publicise the survey results via talks and papers, and potentially reach out to Peter Schmidt to see if he's willing to do a podcast following on from Dave's previous episode, discussing the results and promoting the resources that we are putting together. In summary, I am keen to build upon Dave's work, but also to make my own mark by sharing my story, keeping the conversation going, and making a range of mental health resources available to members of the research software community. Thank you very much for taking the time to consider my application.